We've all heard the phrase, both sides are guilty. Today, I want to look at past the slogans and ask an honest question. Is one side actually held accountable for its radicals while the other is protected by silence, media spin, and political cover? Which narrative is being told? Let's take a hard look and follow the truths wherever they lead us. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of my second Chance to Say No series. For anybody that's new here, this is a series that I'm doing on psychological operations and giving you the tools to be able to recognize them and fight them in your daily life. And look past the slogans, look past the narrative, and see what's truly happening. And if you're already a subscriber here, chances are this is going to be an echo chamber for you, but I hope it gives you some ammunition, if you will, in order to combat anybody that goes against the grain, or anybody that you run into that's speaking the narrative. You want to be able to talk to them in a manner and give them information to maybe make them change their mind. When we look through the past few years, the riots and the rhetoric, the truth becomes uncomfortably clear. The modern left not only tolerates political violence, it justifies it, it excuses it, and even celebrates it. While conservatives, Republican patriots, as flawed as they are, tend to condemn it very loudly. Now, here's a question for you, everybody in chat. Is there a difference between condemning violence and excusing it? And where do we draw the line? No matter where you are in the political spectrum, where do you draw the line when it comes to condemning violence or excusing it? It's a huge question that's going on in our country right now, and we see it in the political violence, the murder of the healthcare executive, the recent murder of the two Israeli embassy employees in Washington, D.C. And as individuals, we need to know where we draw the line so that we can fight against those people that are condoning it and celebrating it. All right. So first thing we need to do, let's look at some evidence here. All right. I've got two pieces of evidence here, and they are probably the biggest political events in the last 4 or 5 years. The first one is the 2020 riots, and the second one is January 6th. Let's do a little comparison here, okay? So the 2020 riots went into 2021. They were across the entire country. There were over 25 people killed during these riots. More than 2,000 police officers were injured. It's an estimated $2 billion of damage were done to personal property and businesses. Cities burned, businesses were looted, churches were vandalized. And what did we hear? What's the one phrase that exemplifies how that was covered? Fiery, but mostly peaceful. CNN literally had a chyron on the bottom of the screen while a reporter stood in front of a burning building saying, fiery, but mostly peaceful riots. And the scary part of this is we're seeing a repeat of this. We are seeing a repeat of this in 2025. There's riots are starting. They're starting new autonomous zones. Churches are being vandalized and burned. The list goes on. The list goes on and on and on. And we're not even a quarter of the way. I guess we're a third of the way through 2025 right now. Kamala Harris promoted bail funds for the rioters. Members of Congress kneeled wearing kente cloths. Most of them didn't even know what kente cloths were, but they knelt in solidarity with the rioters. Celebrities and influencers said that the destruction was necessary and righteous. How many of those that were arrested were actually charged? Many, most of them, vast majority of them were released without charges. it says a lot. Okay, now let's flip it over. Let's look at the major piece of political violence by the right over the last 4 or 5 years. January 6th. One day. Literally one day. It was condemned instantly by almost every Republican, politician, pundit, whatever. They condemned it. Those involved, they were hunted down, prosecuted, and imprisoned. Many held for long amount of times without a trial. If anybody tells you there's no political prisoners in the United States, yes, there were. The J6 people were political prisoners. Okay, now can we see a difference in these two examples? One side's radicals are out there destroying cities, and they're still doing it, and they're being excused. In fact, they're being celebrated. The other side's radicals were destroyed politically and legally by their own side and by the state. It's repeating itself too. That's the thing that gets me, is it's repeating itself. All right, before we go on, there's a couple of things I want to remind you guys of. First off, Jace Medical, you can see it in the scroll right here. Jace Medical is offering $1 ivermectin as an add-on to their Jace cases in the U.S. only. It's still going on. If you go to their website, you can still see it. You get $25 off a Jace case, no matter where you are in the world. And with the code right there, where is it? Right there. See it right there? Where's my finger? Right there. You guys can see it. And you get $50 off the next Jace case or a kid's case. Guys, we promote Jace because we use it. And I'm extremely happy with them. We're able to save a lot of money on prescription meds, and we're good to go. The next thing I want to talk about, since we're talking about kind of a SHTF scenarios and political violence and things that can disrupt our daily lives, use this QR code to go to the WRL card game site and order a deck of WRL cards. These are cards. There's 300 cards with scenarios on them that you can run with friends and family to create a conversation or just get people thinking about what they would do in uncertain times or SHTF times or stressful situations. It's a great tool for vetting people and for helping develop people's critical thinking. Oh, guess I ought to put the main one back, huh? All right, now that we've covered that, let's get on with it. Let's talk about institutional protection versus accountability. Okay, so here's the real dividing line here. Here's the real dividing line. How does each side respond when their radicals go too far? So Representative Stephen King made some controversial remarks after the J6 event. He was stripped of his committee seat by Republicans. He was punished by his own party. Liz Cheney broke with Trump and she was cast out. And she made some heinous accusations against J6ers and was on a committee that you could provable. It was provable that they lied. She was pardoned. She was not the one that committed the supposed crime of insurrection and breaking into the Capitol building, but she was pardoned by the sitting president, who was a Democrat. Okay, on the flip side of that, you've got the people in the squad. Ilhan Omar has recently been in the news. Cori Bush, Anna Presley. They've made inflammatory statements about America, Israel, law enforcement. They get promotions, they get book deals, and they get committee power. You can see that one side treats people that cross the line and promote that type of stuff, while the other one punishes it. When conservatives go too far, they get punished, and when progressives go too far, they get paid. Now, what does it say? What does it say about a party that will punish their own for stepping out of line, but promote others despite extreme views and inflammatory rhetoric? Not even promote them, just allow them to say it without repercussion. What's that say about a party that does that? You know, from where I'm sitting, it shows, yeah, exactly, Christopher. It's totally bizarre how it works. Okay, but all this is indicative of deeper problems, and the biggest one that I can think of is silence and complicity. You know, the real danger, it's not the radicals that are the greatest threat here. It's the people who stay silent to avoid discomfort and cancellation. When moderates on the left stay quiet, when leaders refuse to draw lines, when violence and coercion are tolerated in the name of justice, they become complicit. Their silence is a form of approval. This is true on both sides. This is true on both sides, and it's our job to make sure that, number one, we don't remain silent, and number two, when we run across those people that are silently complicit, that we call them out. You know, here's a comment I saw. You don't need every liberal to throw a brick. You only need them to look the other way when somebody else does it. And you can replace liberal with conservative, patriot, Republican, whatever. Now, yes or no in the chat for the people that are in here. Do you agree that silence in the face of wrongdoing is a form of complicity? How do we make sure we're not enabling violence or extremism? Good, Scanes. I'm glad that people are talking about this stuff. It needs to be talked about, and we need to make sure that we are out there, bring it to light to people. Now, here's what happens. This happens every time you start talking about the hypocrisy and the double standard about violence. Someone will eventually say, "Well, Republicans do it too." Let's be honest. Let's be completely honest about this. Yes, there are bad actors on both sides. The right tends to condemn their own, while the left promotes them. Plain and simple. The evidence is there. You can see it all the time on the news, in the political statements, everything. The scale, frequency, and institutional support are not even close. When was the last time you saw CNN justify right-wing violence? How often have you seen NBC, CNN, or any other liberal news outlet excuse leftist violence? In fact, they will celebrate it. You know, it's not moral equality. It's a double standard, and it's tearing this country apart. Plain and simple. Now, why we've looked at the disparity in the way political violence in this country are handled. Gave you a couple of examples, and you could go out and find a lot more yourself. You know, it's a matter of battling the psychological operation to normalize violence against patriots and conservatives. And here's where it becomes important historically. It only takes a few very radicalized and very dedicated people to make big changes in this country, or in the world, I should say. I'm going to say the world because my example is Russia, 1917 Russia. So everybody knows the story of the Soviet Union. You know, the Bolsheviks took over. Let's look at some numbers here. So when the Bolsheviks seized power in Russia in October of 1917, they were represented only a small fraction of the total population. It's estimated the Russian Empire's population in 1917 was 160 million. Bolshevik party membership in 1917 was between 200,000 and 350,000. And if you run the numbers on that, that's somewhere between 0.125 and 0.22% of the population, just depending on which number you use. Okay, so what's this tell us? What does this tell us? A tiny, highly organized, ideologically driven minority was able to take control of an empire, not through widespread support, but through strategic use of chaos. World War I was going on. There was an economic collapse going on in the world and in Russia, discontent with the Tsar and the provisional government. They were able to control key urban centers, especially Petrograd and Moscow. Manipulation of messaging, the psychological operations, slogans like peace, land, and bread, and violent suppression of opponents, the Red Terror. Now, key insight here. This is the key insight. You don't need a majority to win a revolution, just a committed, ruthless, and coordinated minority. So here's the question. Here's my question for you guys. Does this sound familiar? Do you think that society is heading in a similar direction with the rise of ideological factions and political extremism? Yes or no? And again, let's be completely honest here. This ideological factions and political extremism can apply just as easily to the right. Okay. So here's a challenge for you guys and a call to action. So here's the challenge. To conservatives, moderates, and even classical liberals who still believe in law, peace, and equal justice, stand up and say something. Don't let the radicals on your side speak for you. Don't pretend silence is neutral. It isn't. If political violence is wrong, then say it's wrong, no matter who does it. Because if we don't hold our own accountable, if we keep excusing evil as long as it wears the right team's colors, then we're just observers of the collapse, or we're not just observers of the collapse, we're participants. We need to speak the truth, stand tall. Time for silence is over. All right, listen, guys, I hope that this was informative and it got you thinking. I hope it proved to be a good case study in how narratives are manipulated, or how events are manipulated by the institutions and political entities involved. We're coming to a time in America where this is becoming more and more prevalent. And the more you know about how it's done and what you're looking at on the backside of it all, the more you can combat it going forward. Listen, if you're not a subscriber and you made it this far, think about hitting that like button. We talk about things like this. We talk about homesteading and all the moving parts that it takes to live a life done free. We'd really like you to join us on this journey and just become free yourself. Go search out liberty where you can. If you want to help the channel, you can go down into the affiliate links down below and buy yourself something that's going to help with food independence or self-reliance or just preparedness for SHTF in general. Everything that we have in our affiliate links are things that we use and things that we promote. Listen, get in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this. If you guys got any other examples or thoughts on this, get them down in the comments. I love hearing what everybody has to say. I even like hearing people that disagree with me. Seriously, I like as long as you're polite and you're not abrasive and just basically an asshat, pardon the language. I don't mind having those conversations. As I always say, though, at the end of the day, when you put your head on the pillow, make sure that you've done something throughout the day so that you're better off when you go to bed than when you woke up in the morning, and go out and pursue a life done for you guys. All right. Take care.
Want to make the most of your harvest? With a Harvest Right freeze dryer, you can preserve garden produce, build a reliable emergency food supply, and create healthy snacks for your family, pets, even your next camping trip. Unlike traditional methods, freeze drying retains flavor, color, and over 90% of the food's nutrients without shrinking or toughening your meals. From homesteaders to hunters, this is the ultimate food preservation tool. Ready to level up your preparedness and pantry? Click the affiliate link in the video description or scan the QR code and see why thousands are turning to freeze drying.